Hi, I'm Shannon, one of the librarians here at Naperville Public Library, and today we're going to talk about the meanings of flowers. So flowers have been grown and enjoyed around the world for centuries, and many cultures have applied different meanings to various flowers, as well as colors and varieties of flowers. And symbolic plants are referred to in the Bible, in Shakespeare, and in Greek mythology, among others. In the Victorian era, florography, the language of flowers, became popular in England as a way to express emotions that might have to go unsaid otherwise in a rather repressed society. Japan also has a flower language known as hanakotoba. Let's take a look at some of our favorite flowers and their different meanings around the world. So the first thing we'll look at is flowers meaning luck and love. So sometimes it's not the plant itself, it's the color or the arrangement that is considered fortuitous. Red is a lucky color in Asia, so red plants are thought to bring good fortune. Odd numbers are lucky in Greece and Eastern Europe, so rather than a dozen roses, you might be given 13, and even numbers of blooms are reserved for funerals or grief. And in the West, particularly Ireland, the four-leaf clover is considered a lucky plant based on a legend that Eve took one with her from the Garden of Eden. And the shamrock, which is a three-leaf clover, which is the symbol of Ireland, is also beloved by the Irish. In France, lily of the valley is the symbol of springtime, and it is customary to give a bouquet to wish luck. This dates back to King Charles IX. During his reign, May 1st was une fête d'amour, a celebration of love, where people crafted crowns of flowers for their loved ones, and lily of the valley balls took place where young women dressed in white and men wore boutonnieres of lily of the valley. In America, we think of a dozen roses as being a romantic gift, but different colors have different meanings. Red roses mean love or romance, pink means gratitude, yellow means friendship, white means innocence or purity. In Vietnam, if you're giving someone a single rose, it means you are in love with them, so be careful. In Brazil, bigger is better, a dozen roses for your love. In Korea, there's a tradition to get 20 roses on your 20th birthday. And other flowers, such as white jasmine and heliotrope, also represent love. Hyacinth represents the constancy of love in Victorian flower language and was featured in Kate Middleton's bridal bouquet, along with Sweet William, symbolizing gallantry, ivy for fidelity and happiness, and myrtle, which is a royal tradition in British wedding bouquets dating back to Queen Victoria. Other flowers often seen in wedding bouquets include orchids, which symbolize wealth and prosperity in Asian cultures, daisies, which symbolize innocence, magnolias, symbolizing purity and dignity, hydrangeas, symbolizing gratitude and heartfelt feelings, and orange blossoms, symbolizing luck, fertility, and love. It's not surprising that this clinging vine represents affection. Morning glories will take over your yard if you don't watch out. The Victorian meaning of this flower was love in vain. Since they also bloom and die within one day, some people view their beauty as a meditation on mortality. So now let's look at some sentimental plants. You may remember rosemary is for remembrance, according to Ophelia in William Shakespeare's Hamlet, but other plants are representative of sentimental feelings as well. Ophelia was also correct that pansies symbolize thoughts, since the word pansy derives from the French pensée, meaning thought. In Victorian England, when emotions couldn't be outwardly expressed, a bouquet of pansies would say, "I am thinking of you." Wild pansy is also known by such names as Johnny Jump Up, Heart's Ease, Tickle My Fancy, Jack Jump Up and Kiss Me, Three Faces in a Hood, and Love in Idleness. The lovely lilac represents the joy of youth in florography. It has one of the earliest bloom times, so they are symbolic of springtime and renewal. The meaning of the zinnia is never forget absent friends in Victorian flower language, so this would be a nice gift if you have a friend who has moved away or if you have been lax at keeping in touch. And let's look at some symbolic flowers now. In Japan, the chrysanthemum is the symbol for the country itself. The monarchy is referred to as the chrysanthemum throne, and the imperial crest is a stylized chrysanthemum blossom. Japan's highest order, or visible honor, is known as the Supreme Order of the Chrysanthemum. And the 50-yen coin in Japan also features chrysanthemums. If you're sitting your exams at Oxford University, it's tradition to wear a carnation. White is for the first test, pink is for the intermediate test, and red is for the final test. And supposedly, in the past, you would have started with a white carnation and kept it in a well of red ink so the color would get progressively deeper, hence the white to pink to red colors for progressive exams. Red poppies are emblematic of remembrance, particularly since World War I. Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae saw a patch of poppies after the Second Battle of Ypres, at which about 87,000 Allied were killed, wounded, or missing in action, and he was inspired to write the poem In Flanders Fields about the soldiers buried under the fields of poppies. And groups like the American Legion have still given out poppies made of silk, felt, or paper in exchange for donations to support veterans. Cherry blossoms, or sakura, are a meaningful flower in Japan. They are the symbol of spring there, but sakura only last a few short weeks, so they are also a reminder of the beauty and brevity of life. Historically, they were symbolic of a fallen samurai, and later the kamikaze pilots in World War II. Today, people partake in hanami, which is flower viewing, to appreciate the delicate pink and white blooms, and travelers plan their trips to Japan around cherry blossom season to enjoy their fleeting beauty. And now we'll look at some flowers in mythology and religion. So many flowers have origin stories tied to mythology or religion. The lotus is the most revered flower in Buddhism and Hinduism, and it is the national flower of India. The blue lotus is the national flower of Egypt and is prominently featured in temples from ancient Egypt. In Hinduism, the goddess Lakshmi sits on a pink lotus symbolizing fortune, self-knowledge, and spiritual liberation, and Saraswati sits on a white one symbolizing knowledge, light, and truth. The flower of the lotus is shown in the hand of many Hindu deities like Ganesha, Vishnu, and Parvati, and its petals are used in traditional Ayurvedic medicine. Despite being a sacred flower in Buddhism, a lotus is not considered an appropriate gift in Japan, as they are often displayed at funerals and cemeteries. The narcissus flower takes its name from the Greek myth of a young man who was so enthralled with his own reflection in a pool that he died, leaving behind only a golden white flower that now bears his name, which is also the root of narcissism, a pathological self-absorption. The red anemone is linked to the death of Adonis in Greek mythology. He was loved by both Persephone, queen of the underworld, and Aphrodite, goddess of love. He was killed while hunting a wild boar, and red anemones grew from the place where his blood fell. Purple hyacinth means "please forgive me" in floriography because it's named for Hyacinthus, a young man beloved by the god Apollo, who was accidentally killed by Apollo when they were throwing discus. His death was marked by a rite that turned into an early summer festival known as Hyacinthiae in his home region of Amyclae. Interestingly, our version of the hyacinth flower isn't what the ancient Greeks would have called one. It was most likely a larkspur or iris. Now, Iris was the Greek goddess whose emblem was the rainbow. The iris now symbolizes a message, particularly of hope or of mourning. In medieval art, irises and lilies represented the message from the angel Gabriel that the Virgin Mary would be the mother of Jesus. Another flower associated with Mary is the lady's slipper, which legend said would spring forth from the touch of her foot. And now we'll look at flowers in relation to death. Some flowers are closely linked with death or funerals in certain cultures. In both Korea and Brazil, white chrysanthemums are used for funerals. In Vietnam, it's the tuberose. In Greece, it's the carnation. And white flowers are reserved for funerals in Germany. And white lilies are used in the UK. And red roses are the funeral flower in Latvia and Hungary. In Japan, a camellia blossom represents a noble death because it loses its bloom all at once rather than petal by petal. And in North Africa, especially Egypt, flowers are only given at weddings and funerals. And just a public service announcement here, many flowers can be toxic to pets, including lilies, marigolds, daffodils, tulips, sweet peas, iris, hyacinths, hydrangeas, rhododendrons, and others. So not only do some flowers have the connotation of death, but they can literally be deadly or at least make your pet sick, so please be careful. So if you want to learn more, if you'd like to learn more about the languages of flowers, here are some resources available in the library's collection. We have a book called Floriography, an Illustrated Guide to the Victorian Language of Flowers by Jessica Rue. Folklore and Symbolism of Flowers, Plants, and Trees by Ernst Lerner. Flower Power, The Meaning of Flowers in Asian Art by Danny Chan. And then a novel, The Language of Flowers by Vanessa Diffenbaugh. This was actually the first book ever read by the Reader's Rendezvous Daytime Book Club here at Naperville Public Library. And it talks about a young woman who overcomes her difficult past by working in a florist shop and using the language of flowers. So it's very interesting. And finally, a few floral proverbs here. Life is a flower of which love is the honey was said by Victor Hugo. The neighbor's flowers are always red is a Japanese proverb that's kind of the equivalent of the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, since, again, in Asia, the red flowers are fortuitous. So it's, your neighbor's always luckier than you are, I guess. And then finally, I thought this one was very nice. This Russian proverb, if your heart is a rose, then your mouth will speak perfumed words. So, if you're, nice inside, then everything you say is going to come out nicely as well. And thank you for watching. Hope you've learned something new and interesting. About the language of flowers. Hope we'll see you again soon at the library, and bye-bye for now.